On today's deep dive, the 3 things that musicians should do with their big data.
What do you do with all this data? Carry on watching and you'll find out.
Cue title sequence.
30-minute music marketing for musicians who want to get better at marketing their music.
Hi, I'm Greg.
Hello, I'm Sheldon, and this is 30-Minute Music Marketing, the show for independent artists and DIY musicians who want to get better at marketing their music. That's you. Thanks very much for watching us. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe. Facebook, give us a like and a share. And if you're on iTunes, well, it's no longer iTunes, it's Apple Music now. That just shows you how old and ancient I am. Give us a review. Give us 5 stars if you like us.
Ask questions on the YouTube channel.
Yes, on any communication-y method. If you want us to talk about a particular topic that you might be having some difficulties with, we'll try and talk about that. And today's deep dive, Greg, where we take one particular item/topic within the DIY musician world and talk about it in a little depth, is all about, well, it sort of triggered from Apple Music offering its Apple Music for Artists analytics fairly recently.
Right, okay, that's quite an important word.
Yes, we've had Spotify for Artists for quite some time now, and now Apple Music has done the same, and it's nice. It's nice to have. I've gone in there myself. In fact, we'll put up this particular little nugget of data from my band's own personal Apple Music for Artists here. Ding! What that shows is these are my band's Shazams going from pretty much nothing, massive spike from a national radio play in the UK, nothing a week later, another massive spike from a national radio play. So that's nice, and it shows us that not only are people listening, people are still listening to the radio, Greg.
Okay.
It just goes to show that, and it also shows that, on those 2 days there was nearly 150 people who didn't know who we were. Right. They were listening to our music and they decided to Shazam it.
Do you know, does it tell you which radio station that it was?
I know, because I was listening on both occasions. It was Six Music.
Okay.
Which is quite nice. So, but that's sort of one instance. But in terms of data and analytics, we've got Spotify now, we've got Apple, YouTube will give you analytics. We were looking at some YouTube analytics.
Yes, we were.
For our channel last night. Facebook gives you a whole host of analytical and statistical data.
What about Amazon?
Not unless you're a seller on Amazon.
But people can sell music on Amazon, can't they?
Yes, but that's probably going to be through some sort of aggregator. Well, I mean, that'll be through your digital distribution platform.
Okay.
But so there's a whole host of data out there. Out of all this data, I mean, it's nice to look at, but how can you actually cherry pick the bits of information that you can use to actually further your career? I think that's what this particular episode is all about. And I've chosen maybe 3 things that maybe artists who are watching or listening to this can actually have a look at and maybe use it to incrementally, hopefully, help them progress just that little bit further.
Okay, so what should we be doing with all this data?
Well, I would say point number 1 is, and this is sort of fairly easy and it sort of makes perfect sense, is that you can use these platforms to find your most popular songs. Even if you just go on the desktop on Spotify, for anyone else, they'll tell you the top 10 most currently played tracks. And obviously, if you go onto your own sort of platform, you can get a better indication as to your most popular songs on Apple, on Spotify, maybe even your most watched music videos on YouTube, and maybe you can cross-reference them all and find out A, which are your most popular songs, and then B, if you're playing live, I would say to you out there, should you be trying to integrate and making sure all those songs are contained within your live sets, simply because these are the songs that people are listening to
and are resonating
and enjoying the most. So if you're not including them in your live set, you're doing yourself a disservice.
So just one curiosity thing here.
Carry on.
Spotify, if it's under 1,000 plays, doesn't give you a specific, does it?
I think
I think
Spotify for Artists will give you information within that platform.
Okay, right.
I think it gives you information on every track, not just the ones
Right.
that are
So
above
from
1,000
the
plays.
artist window, they
Yeah.
can gauge more of an idea than just your general punter looking
Yes.
at their Spotify artist page.
But sort of leading on from that, so obviously, you know, if you're basing your live set around your most popular songs, as told to you by Apple and Spotify on YouTube, what I would also say is if those are your most popular songs, when it comes to paying to promote those songs on whatever platform that you do, I would say that you are going to be paying to promote the songs that these platforms have identified as the most popular and the ones that resonate
Yeah.
most with the public. It's doing your A&R job for you. So if you've got some ad spend to try and promote music on whatever platform you might want to promote it, this data, these analytics are showing you and are telling you, well, people like these. So all you need to do is, if you take your top 3 songs, or even top 2, even top 1, if you've only got a limited amount of ad spend, you can find out what your most popular song is on all these platforms. That's the one that you should be paying to promote,
Yeah.
because that's the one that people like and consume the most. And the idea is that if this is the one that resonates most with your current audience, when you try and pay and show that to a new audience, hopefully that's going to be the one that also resonates with them.
Yeah.
So the A&R job is done for you, and the results are told to you through the analytics.
So that's going to save a lot of time.
Yes.
And a lot of guesswork.
It sort of makes perfect sense when you try and look at it like
So
that.
how often do you actually go through your analytics? Is it like every week? or-
You can almost get a little, because there is so much data. I mean, I think the Apple Music one, when I was looking, it tells you the most popular song by age demographic,
Right.
which is very, and you can get lost in data. So maybe,
okay.
once every, the one thing I do occasionally do is, I mean, we do 3 mini tours a year, and it's sometimes good for us before the start of a tour, just to have a look and see which songs are currently resonating with our audience. That's something we certainly do on Spotify, which is the
Right.
more popular of the two sort of platforms. I think Apple Music is about, in terms of listenership, maybe about a quarter the size of our Spotify audience.
It is really. But is YouTube still bigger than Spotify for music consumption?
What I think generally yes. What I would say is that it's probably dependent upon each particular artist. If an artist is included in a lot of, say for example, Spotify playlists, then it could well be that they're going to knock up potentially hundreds of thousands, or even millions of plays on that particular platform, and a
Yeah.
corresponding video on YouTube might not necessarily, because it's not on a,
Yeah.
it doesn't have that means of promotion. It might not have that level of hits. So it's all dependent upon the individual set of circumstances, I would say.
So your next point, which is again is continuing with this analytics, is find where your audiences are.
So the great thing about Apple Music, Spotify, and indeed Facebook is that they will give you an indication as to where your listeners or indeed followers are. So maybe you can take something along the lines of an Excel spreadsheet, create columns of each in terms of where all your listeners and streamers and followers are, and maybe try and correlate and cross-reference and find maybe the 10 most strongest hotspots. And what I wouldn't necessarily say is, right, okay, and now you've got to plan a tour around those maybe top 5 or top 10 locations. But in terms of future ad spend in trying to find more followers and create an even bigger audience in those areas, that's a particularly good starting point.
I mean, when you mentioned earlier, we looked at the analytics for the Google ad spend that we did, and I think both you and I were quite surprised that our biggest audience for this is female, which
Obviously, 2 hot hunks.
can I say? So that was a surprise.
Yeah.
So now we're kind of, in some ways, we're kind of like hopefully if the female audience out there, if you have any questions that specifically that you would like us to answer.
Greg's going to do it in a vest next week, maybe. It's some sort of Baywatch spectacular. Who knows? And for the people who are listening through the podcast, thank goodness you can't see our faces. Or maybe not. Maybe you're actually missing out. Maybe you should go to YouTube and see what's making us ever so popular with the ladies.
Yeah,
I put on the really deep voice.
I think it's the weight loss for me. So
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm putting on whatever you're taking off. What's enough of our personal difficulties?
But that's just to say, it's just that the analytics sometimes can bring to your attention data that you wouldn't think.
Yeah, you necessarily sort of missed, and you might find that you have for some reason a hotspot or an enclave of fans where you might not have had any indication as to where your audience actually was. So
and it does help make, not necessarily change tactic completely, but it does kind of go, oh, okay, maybe we need to look at this and grow that. So
yeah, so it allows, at least, like I say, at least allows you to take the next step. So like I say, I wouldn't necessarily, with that data, go right. I'm going to plan a 5-day tour around those cities. But what I would do is I can go right. Well, I've got some fans there already. If I base some of my marketing around those cities, so I can get even more fans in that location, that's an indication for me that's a great way to build an even stronger fan base. So when I do hit those cities, there's going to be the better chance of even more people being there.
Yeah, which is basically what everyone wants.
What everybody wants, yes.
So number
3, or 2A or something. Who knows?
Right. Okay. So build a typical fan profile.
Typical fan profile. Right. So in the world of marketing, your typical customer, if you were making widgets or chocolate bars, is known as a marketing persona. So the person who would buy your product, what do they look like? What's their age? What's their gender? What's
their demographic?
What's their demographic? And I was talking to you previously, just before we started recording, about Adele. Her typical fan profile, or her sort of persona, typical listener / concert goer. She's female. She is aged 30 years of age, and she's in a healthcare profession. So she might be a nurse, or she might be some sort of personal sort of care worker. And with that typical fan profile in mind, when the record company comes to market whatever her latest product will be, in terms of the marketing materials, they can make it with an eye to that, right, well, they might even give this particular person a name. So let's call her Judy.
Okay.
Judy's 30-year-old, like I say, female health professional. Let's try and create this marketing materials so that we know that it will resonate, and Judy will be able to identify with it when they're making merchandise. Perhaps again, if they've got Judy in mind, is Judy likely to wear this particular T-shirt, or if they're making some sort of, for example, they wouldn't make trucker caps for Adele fans. So they might go, right, well, do we need to have some sort of Adele jewellery type bracelet, or Adele perfume? Again, they're thinking, is Judy likely to buy or latch onto this?
So does that kind of explain possibly what, with your demographic, that you have T-shirts in a variety,
a few larger sizes, perhaps.
Although Are you going to do women's tees, or do you?
I have done women's tees in the past, but they don't sell as well, and because we can only carry a limited number of lines. But in terms of the marketing persona for my band, the typical fan is he's male. He's aged 30. He lives in Wigan. He likes beer. He likes sports. Yes, surprisingly.
Beer and sports.
Beer and sports, and a little bit of sci-fi, Marvel as well.
Okay, right.
So again, Facebook, in terms of the demographic information that Facebook can give you, that's the real killer. Facebook will tell you again how old they are, gender, where they live. Their interests, the Facebook pages that they interact with the most, the music that they like the most, and that gives you, the films perhaps, and that gives you an idea of not only, the typical fan in terms of your marketing materials, maybe potentially how you talk to them and converse with them online, but also as well when you're trying to find engaging topics to talk about on the social media. These could very well be your starting points.
So you've also put Twitter here. I mean, and we
Twitter
talk about
gives you a
Facebook
level
lot.
of just because Facebook is the biggest technically marketing platform in the world, and it provides you with the most in-depth analytics. Twitter will provide you with it's a modest amount of information, but it doesn't tend to be as accurate, and it certainly doesn't tend to be as detailed.
Do you use Twitter?
What, the analytics?
Have you used Twitter to build a fan profile, or have you stuck?
I have sort of used it to cross-reference, and I think that's the thing about all these things. You can't necessarily just rely on one platform alone. So you can take your YouTube channel, potentially demographics, and take your Facebook and maybe your Instagram ones as well, and try and cross-reference just so there's not one particular, because it may well be that already Instagram skews and is used by people who are female and generally tend to be a whole lot younger than the Facebook audience. So a particular platform on its own might already be a little bit skewed in terms of the information that it might give you.
Have you discovered discrepancies in your fan profile between the two platforms?
Like I said, because my largest audience is on Facebook, and because Facebook gives me the most information, that's sort of the primary one, and I will just occasionally cross-reference with the others.
So yeah, I mean, as you put here, view yourself through their eyes.
Yes.
Which I'm amazed at how many bands still they base what they do on what they like, not their audience.
Ultimately, you're not really doing it for yourself. You're doing it
for the people,
for the fans.
Yeah. So that's some good stuff there. I know there is another page on here, but I don't know.
No, that's from last week.
Okay, right. So basically,
benefits of clipboards. You can just pile as many pieces of paper in that you want.
So, recap.
Use it to find your most popular songs, and then A, make sure they're in your set, and B, ask yourself whether those popular songs you need to promote more, perhaps more so than other songs. 2, find out where your audiences are, cross-reference your most popular towns and cities, and find out where the hotspots of your listeners and followers are, and maybe concentrate ad spend again, not just on those songs that we're talking about, those locations, and use it to build a typical fan profile, an average fan of your music, and from that you've got maybe an idea as to what they like and maybe how to talk to them, and again maybe you can potentially design products and market your products in a way that they would like.
Well, that's some pretty good stuff there.
That's hopefully, fingers crossed. Don't forget, if you've got any more questions and topics that you'd like us to cover on this particular channel /show /podcast, stick them in the comments below. We're here again. It's not just for us. We're here for you out there.
So smash that subscribe button and ask questions on the Facebook. And
thanks very much for listening and watching, and we will see you next time.
Next week. Thanks very much.
See you later.
Bye.